The giant ship hung in space, like a dark crown. The Voroth's resolve, the pride of the Shurana dominion, was covered in smooth black metal. It had no windows, no lights outside only darkness. It was a warship, but also a palace. Inside, Queen Shurhala sat on her high throne. Body was tall and thin, with skin like polished obsidian. Her eyes, silver and glowing, never blinked. Her long, bone-like fingers tapped against the armrest of her seat as she read the latest report. A human colony had sent a message. They wanted peace. She was not used to peace. For 500 years, Shurna had expanded across the stars. Dozens of species had bowed to their rule. Some had fought, some had begged. All had lost. Shurhala had seen many enemies, many leaders, but none like these humans. They were small. Their bodies were soft. Their weapons were not special. Yet somehow, they kept growing. They spread across space like a wildfire. Where others feared the Shurna, humans simply smiled. It confused her. It bothered her. She turned to her advisor. Lord Varix, you've read the human envoy's message? Yes, my queen, he said, bowing. His thick armor made a dull clunk as he moved. They request a meeting, a peaceful one. They even declined to bring weapons. Shurhala narrowed her eyes. Foolish or clever. They sent one man. Civilian Shurhala stood up slowly. Interesting. Throne chamber was prepared. The humans were coming aboard in 5 minutes. The chamber was massive, cold, wide, and dark. The floor was smooth stone, and the walls were carved with the history of the Dominion victories. Worlds taken, thrones claimed, tall guards lined. Both sides, still as statues, holding long plasma spears. At the far end sat Queen Shurhala. Her throne raised high on black stone steps. The air smelled like metal and dust. No sound echoed, or no wind blew. Then the doors opened. 2 guards walked in, followed by the human. He was ordinary brown hair, medium height, wearing a simple blue jacket with Earth's flag on the shoulder. No weapons. No armor. Just a bag in his hand. He walked toward the queen with a calm, relaxed smile. He stopped at the foot of the stairs and bowed. Your Majesty, he said, thank you for receiving me. My name is Daniel Holt, representative of Earth. Said nothing. She watched him carefully. No fear. That was the first thing she noticed, even under her cold gaze. He smiled. He looked up and held out the bag. I brought cookies, he said. The chamber went silent. Her guards shifted slightly. Shurhala raised one eyebrow. Cookies? Yes. Chocolate chip. It's a human tradition. When you visit someone's house, you bring a gift. This is not your house. She said no, Daniel said, his smile. Never leaving. But I'm hoping it will feel like a second home. The queen stood. Her tall form moved with smooth grace. She descended the stairs slowly, each step echoing. When she reached Daniel, she towered over him. He didn't flinch. She looked him in the eyes. Why do you smile at me, human? You're in my court, surrounded by guards. You are alone. You are not armed. Yet you grin like a beast. Daniel chuckled softly, because smiling is what we do. When we're nervous, when we're excited, we want to show we mean no harm. No harm? Her voice was low. You step into the court of the Shurana matriarch, and you speak of peace. He nodded. Yes. Shurhala circled him once, her eyes scanning. You are not military. No, you are not powerful. I wouldn't say that, Daniel. Said lightly, then why were you chosen? We smiled again, but this time it was softer, because we don't believe strength comes from muscle or metal. It comes from words, ideas, and connections. The kind that change hearts, not just minds. Shurhala stared at him. For a long moment she said nothing. Then, without warning, she took the bag from his hand. She opened it. Smell of chocolate. And sugar drifted upward. She took one, studied it. Then she took a bite. Her guards flinched. She chewed slowly, thoughtfully it is. Sweet, she said. Daniel grinned. Good, that means I didn't burn them this time. She tilted her head. You made these yourself? Of course. My mother's recipe. Another pause. Then, something odd happened. The queen of the Shurna laughed, just once. A small, short sound. Dry, like leaves. But it was real. Tell me, Daniel. Holt of Earth, she said. Why do your people believe they can stand against an empire like mine? He looked around, at the guards, at the high walls, the alien carvings. Then he met her eyes again. Because you think you've seen everything, he said softly. But you haven't seen us yet. Shurhala raised an eyebrow. Daniel continued. You've seen fear, submission, pride, but humans, we're strange, make jokes in the middle of danger. We sing when we're scared. We laugh in the dark. He looked up at the giant wall behind her throne. Your empire was built by power. Ours will be built by hope. Shurhala's smile faded. But her eyes gleamed. And what if I crush that hope? Daniel shrugged. Then 10 more Daniels will show up, probably with better cookies. She barked another laugh. Her guards shifted again, confused. She raised a hand. Enough. They froze. She turned to Daniel. You are brave, or foolish. Perhaps both. He nodded. Usually both. She studied him for a moment longer. Then she said, You may remain aboard for 3 days. During that time we will speak. Further, you will be watched, but not harmed. Thank you, Your Majesty. He turned to walk away, but she stopped him with one final question. Tell me, human, if I were to send my fleet to your world tomorrow, what would your people do? Daniel looked back. His eyes were calm. Smile was quiet. We'd offer. You dinner first, he said. Then we'd fight like hell. Then he walked out. The chamber remained silent. Queen Shurhala sat back on her throne, still holding the half-eaten cookie. For the first time in centuries, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long, long time. Curiosity. Daniel Holt sat in a cold metal room aboard the Voruth's Resolve. The walls were smooth and silver, with soft blue lights running through them like veins. There was no bed, only a single chair and a table. He didn't seem to mind. He leaned back, feet crossed, reading a small book. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Queen Shurhala entered.
Alone.
Her tall frame seemed to fill the room. She wore no crown, but her presence was powerful, and her silver eyes studied Daniel with interest. She had spent the night thinking about him, his calmness, his words, and of course, that strange human food called cookies. You seem relaxed, she said. Daniel looked up with a smile. Good morning, Your Majesty. I did not come here for your greetings. He nodded, understood. She stepped closer, slowly circling him like a curious predator. You speak of peace, yet you are not afraid. You smile even now. Do you not realize where you are? Daniel closed his book gently. I do. I'm on your flagship alone, surrounded by aliens who could destroy my planet, and yet you smile. He grinned. Yes, smiling helps. Shurhala narrowed her eyes. You humans are strange. He chuckled. We get that a lot. Hey. She stood still for a moment, then asked, What? Is it you really want Daniel Holt?
Daniel thought for a second. Connection.
Understanding, and maybe friendship. Friendship, she repeated, as if testing the word. Yes. Earth doesn't want war. We want to learn, trade, and grow, together. Shurhala walked to the table and sat across from him. No empire grows through friendship, she said. Conquer, we dominate. We do not ask for cookies. Daniel smiled wider. Maybe that's why your empire is afraid of us. Her eyes flashed. We do not fear humans. Maybe not yet, he said softly. But you should respect us. We're not strong because of weapons. We're strong because we never give up. We build bridges even while others build walls. Shurhala studied him in silence. There was no lie in his face, no fear. Only a quiet confidence. Your smile, she said. It confuses me. Daniel tilted his head. Why? It feels wrong. You should be nervous. You should be guarded. I am, he said, but smiling doesn't mean I'm blind. It means I choose to face danger with hope. Shirhala stood and turned her back to him. Do you know what hope gets you in war, Daniel Holt? He looked at her calmly. Sometimes victory? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she touched a panel on the wall. A hologram lit up, showing stars, planets, and a map of the galaxy. This is the Sharana Dominion, she said. We control 1/4 of this sector. We have never lost a war. Daniel stood beside her, studying the map. Impressive, he said. But humans have a saying, the taller the mountain, the harder the fall. She looked at him. You think we will fall? I think everyone does eventually. But falling isn't the end. It's the chance to rebuild stronger. Shirhala turned off the hologram and faced him fully. You are either very wise or very foolish. Daniel shrugged. Can't I be both? Meanwhile, deep inside the ship, the War Council gathered. Lord Varric stood in the center of a dark room filled with military leaders. All wore the red and black robes of war-caste generals. This human is dangerous, Varric growled. Not because he carries weapons, but because he spreads ideas. The Queen listens to him. That is a risk, another general hissed. Should we eliminate him? Varric shook his head. Not yet. The Queen has her reasons, but we prepare the fleet. If this Earth becomes a problem, we strike. The generals nodded. Later that day, Daniel was invited to walk through the gardens of the Vorth's Resolve, one of the only places on the ship that resembled nature. Metal trees grew under artificial lights. Blue flowers with long petals opened and closed with each breath of the ship's air system. Small insect-like creatures buzzed quietly. Shirhala stood waiting among the glowing plants. Daniel approached with a calm smile. Nice place. These plants were brought from our home world, she said. They are the last of their kind. He bent down, carefully touching a petal. Beautiful. They are protected, she said. If one is damaged, the punishment is death. Daniel stood up quickly. Good to know. She almost smiled. Almost then she asked, Why do you think I let you live, Daniel Holt? He paused. Because you're curious, and maybe because you see something in us that you didn't expect? She said nothing. He continued, You've met leaders who beg for mercy. Generals who hide behind armies. Scientists who pretend to be gods. But I'm just a man with cookies and questions. He looked around at the glowing plants. And somehow, I think that bothers you more. Shirhala turned to him sharply. Do you think too highly of yourself? Maybe. But I also think highly of you, she blinked. Of me? Daniel nodded. Yes. You're powerful, wise, and yet, here you are, standing in a garden with a fragile human. It tells me you're more than just a conqueror. She looked at him, truly looked at him. Not as an insect, not as a curiosity, but as something else unequal. Tell me something, Daniel Holt, she said. What do humans fear the most? He didn't answer right away. Then softly, being forgotten. That our lives, our stories, our dreams ... vanish when we're gone. She nodded slowly. Even immortals fear that. They stood there, two beings from opposite ends of the stars, in silence. Then Shirhala whispered, perhaps ... This is the beginning of something new. Daniel smiled again. I think so too, but far away beyond the orbit of the Sharana flagship. Danger brewed. A fleet of warships moved in secret, heading toward a human colony near the border. It was called a training mission. Everyone knew the truth. It was a test. The Sharana wanted to see how Earth would respond to pressure. Back on the Vorth's Resolve, Daniel received the news on his wrist device. Its calm expression faded for a second. Shirhala saw it. What is it? She asked. He showed her the message. Your people are moving ships toward our colony. She frowned. I did not order this. Daniel stared at her. Then someone else did. She looked at the screen again. Her silver eyes grew cold. There are those who want war, she said. Even within my court, Daniel took a deep breath. This changes everything, no, she said. It reveals everything. He looked at her, serious now. If this leads to battle, Your Majesty, there will be no smiling. Shirhala looked at him. Yet you still hope? He nodded. Always.
Is she?
Stared at him for a long time, then said, Then I will prove your hope is not misplaced. Queen Shirhala moved through the high, silent halls of her flagship with purpose. Her long black robe flowed behind her like a shadow. The silver lights in the walls flickered as she passed, recognizing her command. The queen was not pleased. For centuries, her orders had been absolute. But now, a fleet moved without her command toward a human colony. It was more than disobedience. It was a challenge. Behind her, Daniel Holt walked quickly to keep up. He didn't speak. He knew this was not the time for jokes or smiles. His face was tight with worry. They entered the War Council chamber. The doors opened with a deep hiss. Inside, the generals stood at attention. All wore the dark crimson of the war caste. Their expressions were cold. Queen Shirhala stopped in front of Lord Varix. You sent ships toward the human colony, she said. Her voice was sharp and cold. I acted in the interest of the Dominion, Varix replied, without flinching. We must test Earth's strength. Peace cannot be built on ignorance. You acted without my order. I acted for the safety of your throne. Daniel stepped forward. You're risking war over fear? Varix glanced at him with disgust. The human speaks again. Always smiling. Always talking. But words do not stop plasma fire. Shirhala raised her hand. Enough. The room went still. She looked at Varix. Recall the fleet. No, he said. Whispers moved through the room like wind. I beg your pardon? The queen asked. Slower now? Varix stood straighter. With respect, my queen. You have grown soft. You entertain humans with sweets and talk of peace. But peace is weakness. The Dominion survives only by strength. You question my rule? I protect it. Shirhala moved closer to him, her voice lowered. You speak rebellion, Varix. Be careful. He didn't back away. I speak the truth, he said. This human has poisoned your judgment. Daniel could feel the tension. It wrapped around him like a wire ready to snap. XIRHALA turned to the council. Any who stand with Varix, speak now. 3 generals stepped forward. The queen's eyes turned cold. So be it. Within minutes, the ship's guards arrested the traitorous generals. Varix resisted, drawing a hidden blade. The throne guards struck him down in seconds. He fell with a thud, gasping, blood black on the floor. Shirhala didn't even blink. Dispose of him, she said. The guards dragged him away. Silence returned. She turned to Daniel. Now you see, not all threats come from outside. Daniel nodded slowly. Sometimes the worst ones wear the same armor. Shirhala walked away from the chamber without another word. Later, in her private chamber, the queen stood alone, staring out at the stars. Daniel entered after being summoned. The room was quiet. No guards, no advisors. Thank you for coming, she said without turning. I wasn't sure if I'd still be welcome after that, he replied gently. You were the only reason I did not strike Earth first, she said. That fleet was launched 2 days ago. It reaches your colony soon. Daniel frowned. Do we have time to stop it? She turned to face him. Barely. What will you do? I will speak to them, she said. Not as queen, but as Shirhala. Daniel looked confused. What does that mean? It means I am going alone. He stepped forward, surprised. That's dangerous. They could reject you, even attack you. She nodded. That is a risk I must take. If I let war start because of fear, then I am no better than Varix. Daniel stared at her for a moment. You're changing, he said softly. She met his eyes. You made me curious, but your hope made me think. Then she did something he never expected. She smiled, just slightly, just once. It was strange. Not perfect, but real. Daniel blinked. Did you just smile? It hurt, she said flatly. He laughed, and she almost did too. The queen prepared her personal vessel sleek, silver ship shaped like a crescent moon. Daniel insisted on coming with her. "If you're going into danger," he said, "you'll need someone to bake cookies afterward." She allowed it. Maybe because she knew she wasn't just going for diplomacy. She was going to change everything. The human colony floated in orbit around a pale, green world named Horizon. It was not large, but its people were proud. They had built domes and towers, farms and homes, under harsh sun and strange storms. And now they were staring at the black shapes of Shurana warships in their skies. Inside the main control center, Colonel Sarah Miles watched the radar screen. "Unidentified ship approaching," her officer said. "Hostile. Negative. It's Royal Class." Sarah narrowed her eyes. "Put it on screen." The image showed the Queen's ship approaching slowly, peacefully. No weapons active. "Is that her?" Someone whispered Queen Shurhala herself was coming. The humans met the Queen in the colony's central dome. Armed guards stood behind Colonel Miles, but their weapons were lowered. Shurhala walked in, tall and silent. Beside her, Daniel smiled and waved. The humans looked confused. Sarah stepped forward. "Queen Shurhala, to what do we owe this? Unusual visit?" "I am here to stop a war," the Queen said. Her voice echoed across the dome. Sarah looked at Daniel. "This was your doing?" "I helped," he said. Xirhal explained everything the rogue generals, the unsanctioned fleet, her decision to end the threat personally. "I came," she said, "to ask for your patience, and to show you that the Dominion is not only darkness." Colonel Miles stared at her for a long moment. "You risked your life to come here?" "Yes. Why?" Shurhala looked at Daniel, then back. "Because a human showed me something I had forgotten. The strength of peace." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "And why is he smiling?" Daniel replied. "Because you haven't shot us yet." Some of the human soldiers chuckled. Even Sarah smiled. "We'll inform Earth High Command. You have our patience for now." Shurhala nodded. "That is all I ask." The warships withdrew. The tension across the sector began to fade, and something new began to grow. Trust back aboard Vorov's Resolve. The Queen stood on the observation deck, looking at the stars. Daniel joined her again, holding a small package. "What's that?" she asked. "Cookies, celebration batch." She took one and bit it without hesitation. "I will never understand humans," she said. Daniel looked at her. "You don't have to. Just understand that we're here to stay." She nodded, and then asked again, softly, almost like a whisper. "Daniel Holt, why do you always smile at me?" He smiled once more. "Because when I do, you seem less alone." The Queen didn't answer. But this time, just once more she smiled too. The weeks after the near war were tense, but hopeful. Queen Shurhala stayed aboard the Vorith's Resolve, her mind full of questions she never thought to ask before. Daniel Holt became her constant companion, not only as a diplomat, but also as a teacher of humanity's strange ways. One morning, Queen sat on a metal bench in the ship's garden, watching blue flowers open and close under artificial sunlight. Daniel handed her a small device-a-human communication tablet. "This is how we share ideas," he said. She looked at the screen, reading carefully. The words were simple, but the meanings were deep. Stories of Earth, its history, its failures, and its triumphs. "Your people," she said softly, "have endured much." Daniel nodded. "And sometimes that endurance feels like pain, but it also teaches us strength and hope." Shurhala was silent for a moment. "You smile still." "Even now," he smiled back. "It's not always easy, but it helps. Smiles are like light in the dark." The Queen looked at him, thoughtful. "I want to understand." Their conversations became lessons in humanity. Daniel taught her about music, the strange sounds humans create to express emotions. Shurhala listened as he played a soft melody from his tablet. "I don't understand the words," she said, "but I feel the feelings." "It's music's magic," Daniel smiled. "It speaks without words." Day she surprised him by humming the tune softly. Daniel looked up, eyes wide. That was good. It felt strange, but Nice. They laughed. The first real laugh they shared. But not everyone was happy with this new peace. The traitorous Lord Varix had been imprisoned, but his followers were still out there, whispers of rebellion, plots to overthrow the queen. Shirhala knew the danger was not over. She called Daniel to the war council. "Your people call you a diplomat," she said, "but I see a warrior in you." Daniel smiled. "I fight with words. Words are weapons here," she said. "Use them well." Together, they planned to meet with the leaders of the Dominion's different worlds. They would travel to each, offering peace talks and trade agreements. "Are you ready for this?" Daniel asked. She nodded. "I want to try there first." Stop was the planet Nashira, world of deserts and steel cities. The leaders were hard, suspicious of humans and their strange queen. The meeting room was cold and bare. The Council of Nashira eyed Shirhala and Daniel like hawks. "You bring a human here," one leader sneered. "What folly." What folly stood tall. "I bring peace. War is no longer the answer." Council members laughed. Daniel stepped forward. "You think we are weak? But Earth is strong because we never stop trying. We build, we heal, and we protect those who cannot protect themselves." One elder spoke. "Words are easy. Actions prove truth." Daniel smiled. "Then let us show." "You." Over the next days, Shirhala and Daniel worked tirelessly. They arranged joint projects to build water systems for Nashira's dry lands. They shared technology and knowledge. Slowly, the cold faces warmed. By the end of their visit, the council agreed to send ambassadors to Earth. Shirhala smiled. "This is only the beginning." Back on the ship, Daniel and Shirhala reflected on their success. "You are becoming more human," Daniel joked. She laughed softly. "You are becoming more alien." They sat in the garden, sharing stories and dreams. Suddenly, alarm rang. A new threat had arrived. Sensors detected a fleet of unknown ships near the Dominion's borders. They were not Shirana, nor human. The War Council called it the Shruda, mysterious force from beyond the galaxy. It's rumored to consume entire worlds. Shirhala faced the council. "This is a danger that cannot be ignored." Daniel frowned. "How do we fight something we don't understand?" "Together," she said firmly. "Humans and Dominion united." Plans were made for a joint defense force. Ships from Earth and the Dominion stood side by side in the void of space. Daniel worked with military leaders to coordinate strategies. He learned quickly the art of war, while reminding commanders to keep hope alive. The day came when the Shroud attacked. The battle was fierce and terrifying. Dark ships moved like shadows, striking without mercy. The humans in Shirana fought with courage and skill, their weapons flashing like stars. Daniel stood on the bridge of the Voruth's resolve, watching the chaos unfold. "Keep the fleet together." He shouted. Xirhala stood beside him, calm and commanding. "We will survive," she said, "because we fight for more than conquest." In the heat of battle, a Shroud ship broke through the defenses and targeted the colony on horizon. Daniel's heart raced. "We can't lose them," he said. Shirhala nodded. "Then we will stop it. Together." They led a squadron directly to the enemy's ship, fighting through dark energy fields and overwhelming fire. In the final moment, Shirhala used her personal weapon, a glowing spear that pulsed with ancient power too. Strike the heart of the enemy ship. It exploded in a brilliant flash. The battle ended. The Shroud retreated into the darkness, wounded but not destroyed. Shirhala and Daniel turned to horizon to find the colony safe. The victory was bittersweet. Many lives were lost. But something had changed. The Dominion and Earth had fought side by side, and won. Back aboard the flagship, Shirhala and Daniel stood before the council once more. "We have faced a darkness no one could face alone," the Queen said. Daniel added, "And together we found light." The council members, once cold and doubtful, now looked hopeful. Shirhala smiled the smile that was no longer strange or forced, but real. Days later, under the stars, Daniel and Shirhala sat in the garden again. "Why do you still smile at me?" Human, she asked. He looked at her with warmth. Because when I smile, I see the future we can build together. She nodded, and as the blue flowers opened in the soft light, two different worlds became one. The stars shimmered cold and bright beyond the windows of the Voroth's resolve. Queen Shirhala stood tall on the observation deck, her gaze fixed on the distant horizon of space. Beside her, Daniel Holt watched the same endless dark. After the battle with the Shroud and the fragile peace forged with the Dominion worlds, a new chapter was beginning. But peace, they both knew, was a delicate thing easy to break, hard to keep. "Are you ready?" Daniel asked, breaking the quiet. Shirhala turned to him. "For what?" "To speak before the Galactic Assembly, to tell all the worlds of our union." She smiled, a soft curve of lips that had once been impossible for her. "I am ready." The Galactic Assembly was held on Zethar Prime, a vast space station orbiting a giant gas giant. Delegates from hundreds of worlds gathered in its enormous chamber, where voices from all corners of the galaxy mixed like a storm. Shirhala and Daniel entered together, their presence drawing a wave of murmurs and glances. The human and the alien, queen side by side. The assembly's chair, a tall creature with shimmering skin, called the meeting to order. Queen Shirhala of the Shurana Dominion and human envoy Daniel Holt, the chair intoned. "You may speak." Shirhala stepped forward. Her voice was calm but strong. "For too long, our galaxy has been divided by fear and hatred. For too long, we have fought battles that left scars we still carry. Today, I stand before you not as a conqueror, but as a servant of peace." She gestured to Daniel. "This human showed me that strength is not only in weapons or fleets, but in understanding. Together, we have faced the darkness of the Shroud and survived. Together, we can build a future where all species thrive." The chamber was silent for a moment. Then a ripple of applause spread. After the assembly, Shirhala and Daniel walked through the halls, meeting delegates and leaders. Some were warm, others cautious, but most listened. "Your courage is rare," a senator from Velkar said. "To bring peace in times like these is no small task." Daniel smiled. "It takes more courage to try than to fight." Shirhala nodded. "And more strength to forgive than to punish." Back on the Voroth's resolve, the queen and the human envoy shared a quiet moment. "You have changed the Dominion," she said softly. "And you have changed me," Daniel replied. They stood close to figures from different worlds, connected by hope, but even in peace, challenges remained. A message arrived from the Shroud's home system, a warning in cryptic code. The Dark Force was regrouping. XIRH, ALA studied the message with concern. "We have won the battle, but not the war." Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder. "We face it together." Plans began for a combined task force, uniting species across the galaxy. Training programs, technology sharing, and diplomatic missions expanded. As months passed, alliances grew stronger. Dominion and Earth became partners, not enemies. One evening, in the ship's garden, Daniel and Shirhala sat beneath the synthetic stars. "You still smile at me?" she said. He looked at her, his eyes warm. "Because I see the hope in you." She reached out and took his hand, a gesture she had learned from humans. "For the first time, I am not alone." Daniel squeezed her hand gently. "Never again." Years later, peace was no longer a dream, but a reality. The galaxy was safer, more united. The story of the alien queen and the smiling human became a legend told across worlds, a symbol of courage, trust, and the power of a simple smile. And somewhere in the vastness of space, Queen Shirhala and Daniel Holt stood together, watching the stars with hope in their hearts, because sometimes the smallest smile can change the fate of worlds.